What's up, Kelsey?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Is that your pup in the background?
Yeah, that is my little 8-month-old lad that we're training. He got to go on several dove hunts.
How'd he do?
He did good. He did really good to be young. He got to learn that the shotgun doesn't always mean go because there's a lot of shooting and a lot of missing on doves.
Yeah, yeah, our old dog struggled with that a lot. He just wanted to go so bad, and we kind of struggled with him breaking.
Yeah, he did good on that. I've worked with him a lot. I shot out I went dove hunting this morning and killed six, and I shot a pigeon, and one landed about 5 feet in front of him. I could about caught it, and he didn't break. I was proud of him, but he likes to creep.
Yeah,
You got to work on that, and he's only 8 months old, so he doesn't mark really well. He has to really see it, and we're
yeah,
learning hand signals. So I'm happy with him, but
yeah.
there's no substitute for hunting. I'm going after we get off of this. I'm going to Watts Bar for a couple days and try to find some geese, and then this weekend is opening wood duck and teal. So,
Yeah. I think we're gonna try to go Saturday morning on Little River here for some wood ducks, but
mhm.
got some rain coming in, so I'm not sure
Yep,
what it'll
yep,
be like. We We did great opening weekend of Dove. I think opening day we killed probably 300, but then um they kind of all moved out, but maybe we might have some more move back in this weekend, so we'll see.
mhm. We
My
had one good
father-in-law,
shoot. The first day we had way too many people on one of the fields that I helped plant, and it was more of a spectacle. But the second day we hunted a field that did really well. We got it planted early, and it had rain right a couple of weeks after we planted, so it grew well. And we killed 76 between six hunters, and maybe it was a acre and a half field.
mm, yeah, my father-in-law has an eight, well, she's probably 9 weeks now, 9 week old black lab puppy that he brought to the dove
Hmm.
hunt just to get used to some of the sounds and everything. And um he would get one of the doves and toss it, and she went and picked it up for him and brought it back. It
Yeah,
was so cute. I'm excited for him. Hopefully, she turns out to
yeah,
be good.
yeah. He's a braver man than me. I would be scared to take a 8 or 9 week old with all that shooting. But if that pup handled that, then that's a great start.
She didn't care at all.
That's good. Some of them, I think labs are pretty good about it. Labs there that are bred to hunt, they usually don't. Some of these fancy pointers and flushers and stuff, they're a little sensitive. They tend to be a little bit kind of get their feelings hurt. Mine had no issues whatsoever with the guns, and I can get on to him. He's stubborn. I had some Weimaraners before him, and I could look at my female wrong, and she would just bow down. She got her feelings hurt really easy.
Yeah, we have a lab that she's probably 4 now, but we've only had her for a year, and she's been in two families before we got her.
Hmm.
She's a real gun shy. I don't think we'll ever break her from it. She's pretty
Boy,
much
it's
just a
real
house pet.
difficult. Yeah, it's real hard. Uh, I, I've had some hounds that had some issues, and she don't shoot around them much, but you got to start slow and do it over food, have them eat. And I'm talking like starter pistol 100 yards away. It's
Mhm.
just, unless you're emotionally attached to the dog, and unless it's a pet, if it does something for you, but if it's just strictly a working dog, sometimes you just got to move on. It's not cut
Yeah.
out to hunt. It's got to be a pet. But I love working with these dogs. At UT, we're working on getting kids into companion animal and hunting together. I've been working with some local retriever clubs. Hopefully, we'll have some simulated duck hunts and some lab field trials. Well, not just AKC, it could be any dog, but some field trials and let the kids handle some of these master hunt test dogs that are really good and let them learn
Yeah,
and see how fun it can be.
yeah, that's awesome. There was a guy I used to know when I worked in Athens, um, that bred and trained dogs. I can't remember what his.
My buddy got his black lab from a trainer in Athens. It's probably the same one because there's not many around.
No, I can't. I know his name is Ryan Stamey, but I don't remember what his business name is.
There's a woman that's training dogs around Athens too,
Hmm.
but she's selling some
They
pups
would,
and
that was a couple of years ago, but they would post
mhm.
videos of them doing those trials and having them jump in the water and everything.
Our UT student chapter of DU had their first meeting last week. I think they had a
Mhm.
pretty good turnout. I advertised it for them on the ag campus, and what's impressive about them is it's not a lot of wildlife students, which I like, but that means there's room for them. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
get them to work with the Wildlife Society and um, hopefully get to do some events with them because they've got a lot of kids on the main campus that's
yeah.
into it.
That's kind of how it was when I was in school there. It was a lot of main campus kids and a lot of
Mhm,
people that never even duck hunted, um, but just wanted to be involved in something.
mhm. Matt
But
Webb, it's good to see you, buddy. They got you working with UT again in some form of fashion, don't they? Let's have somebody's off. But yeah, I'm gonna try to get us some geese or something this weekend if the weather will hold out.
I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you now.
It's good to see you, Ronnie Cowan. It's good to see you
Mhm.
too, Kelsey. Glad to see you back in Tennessee, Ronnie.
I'm happy to be here, man. Tickled with this new position. Hope I keep it. I gotta apply for these grants every 2 years, but it's a new position, so um, I'm glad to be here in this form of fashion. I got to come back home, and that's always great. I grew up 30 minutes down the road from here.
That's good. And it sounds like the position is something that God has just laid in your lap and it runs right down your
Uh,
alley.
well, yeah, I couldn't ask for nothing better, getting people into hunting and fishing. So I
Good.
enjoy it and got some big things going on, hopefully. But it's a very wide open job. I mean, I can do anything from college students to 4-H to young adults, and so I pretty much can have a lot of vision that I can work with, and that's how I like it. That's all I've ever known as being a split agent, working with both youth and adults. So the only time I didn't do that was when I was in Florida and I was a heavily administrator. So the majority of my duties was in an office. So I didn't enjoy not being in the field as much. So I'm glad to be back to where I can get back in the field.
Good. You'll never be bored.
No, no. Monday I go to Catoosa WMA. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but teaching upland habitat with one of the professors here, and so I get to go out and talk to future wildlife biologists and wildlife officers and get to help the program that I graduated from here at UT. So um, UT Southern, Matt, this might interest you. I think UT Southern down there in Giles County, your old stopping grounds, is trying to get a wildlife management program started.
Okay. I
So
know
I
they're
don't
doing,
know if you have any kids that are you still close to Giles County? Are you a little bit further east down there in Alabama?
it takes me about an hour 45 to get to Pulaski.
Okay.
It's not too bad. But I think it's one of those things as they become more established because I know that they were looking at adding more ag and natural resource program in there. I
Yeah,
think I think that will be a draw for a lot of kids out of North Alabama.
that's great. That's
I
great.
mean, being right there at I-65, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, if there's a job opening there, I'll have to hide that from my wife because she's from Lawrence County. She
Uh,
don't need, and I don't want to leave. But I
okay.
think she loves that area, which I do too. I still do a lot with Calvin, and I still have good, I call them family in Hohenwald. I love that part of Tennessee. That's like a second home down that way. So yeah.
Yeah, I was actually on the phone with Kevin Rose this morning.
Oh yeah,
He's doing pretty good, trying to pay for
good,
youngins of his through
good.
college, it sounds like.
I'm doing a program with them in October. We're going to skin a deer to talk. I want to show them how to process it, cut it up, and quarter it up, and talk about food safety and hunting skills. And then we're going to cook some, make some deer chili. We're calling it Hunter Harvest. They're doing that multi-county group down there still, so that'll be in October.
Awesome.
Hmm.
I reckon we could go ahead and get started.
Okay.
We just got one person on here for now. I'm already recording, so don't feel like you have to take the whole hour. And then if
Yeah,
she's
we'll
got
talk.
questions at the end, we can answer those and then hop
Hmm.
off and I'll get it
Yeah.
posted on the recording.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk what I'm prepared to talk with and show you some things and Kelsey, Matt, if you want to add something in, because you have expertise in this, because what a lot I'm talking about is really just Ag 101, because dove hunting incorporates a lot of ag. So, um, my name is Ronnie Cowan. I'm an outdoor recreation specialist for the University of Tennessee. I work in agriculture and natural resources here in Knoxville, but I cover all 95 counties. And my focus is hunting, fishing, and recreational shooting. And I was asked to come talk about doves, which dove hunting is a good hobby of mine. It's a passion. I really enjoy it. And dove hunting is really good for me because it's a great way to introduce people into hunting and in the outdoors. Now, dove season is a lot of action. It can be, done with friends. You don't have to have a lot of camouflage. You don't have to hide. You can talk. You can have sweet tea, sit in the shade, and have a good time. And it's a little bit more welcoming than some of the other game species that we have that might be a little intimidating for folks. But dove hunting is very popular. It's like a national holiday around here. In Tennessee, it opens always on September 1st. It probably opens soon or not if the same in Alabama. But September 1, it always opens. It opens at noon. So a lot of times there's a big breakfast involved, a lot of fellowship in the morning, and then go out to the dove fields at noon and see a little bit of flying, but the real flight don't really start till in the evening. So if you're hunting public land, I've hunted places in Tennessee where you have to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning to find a spot in the field. The parking lot looks like Walmart. So a lot of folks really enjoy morning dove hunting. Uh, but to talk about food plots, we really need to understand what mourning doves are. So mourning doves is a migratory bird, and to hunt them, they're migratory means that they're federally managed, federally protected. So they migrate from the north to the south. They have nesting grounds. So um, we catch them in their migration. I wouldn't say that they migrate quite like ducks or other waterfowl, but they are considered migratory. So when you hunt them, you got to have that migratory bird permit, which is free if you hold certain types of license like sportsman. And so basically a questionnaire. It helps your state DNR, like Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, to monitor and manage the population. So mourning doves, there's about 500 million estimated in North America. They're a very populated bird, and it's estimated that hunters can harvest 15% of that population. So if you want to do the math of 15% of 500 million, the hunters can harvest that 15% in the fall and not affect the population. So that's a lot of doves. So dove are um, are not long-lived species, so they don't average, I think, 3 to 5 years lifespan. There's a 75% mortality rate within the first year. So it's very similar to dove. to quail and other small game species. So, um, we're not really, I'm telling you that to say that, hunters are not wiping out dove. We see it, we hear a lot of shooting and there's a lot of dove harvest, but we're really not tapping into that. But dove's diet, they are strictly grainivores, as I call them, grain. They eat a lot of grain, ag grain, native grass seeds and forb seeds. So really their diet consists mainly of grain. So to hunt and where this food plot comes in is we got to supply the food source, which is grain. So a dove, they reproduce, they have, I think, a 33-day incubation period where they only lay 2 eggs per clutch, and they'll raise maybe 5 or 6 offspring every year. But they don't really collect seed when they're nesting. After the first 3 days, they feed seed. But what's unique about mourning dove is they produce this crop milk. So a lot of birds, when they eat, they have this digestive, I guess you'd call it, an organ called a crop, where they store seeds and small stones. And when they have young, they shed that lining of that crop, and it creates a milk. So they actually feed crop milk to their young. A little interesting fact there. But to eat the grain, they have to eat small gravel to help them digest it, and that gravel goes into a gizzard. So many of us are probably ate chicken and are used to chicken gizzards, but doves have gizzards, and that's a very strong muscle where they take that grain that they eat and it's mixed with the stones and the grit and the gravel that they eat, and it helps it break it down and digest it. So to tell you all that is the reason why food plots is a big deal with doves is because they eat a lot and they have to have that grass and forb seed agriculture grain. So when we hunt, we want to look at fields. We want to find a location for our food plot. And the ideal location for a food plot, obviously, is, you got to consider where the birds are naturally wanting to be, ease of hunting, because that's our ultimate goal. And we got to have some kind of water source. So some birds get the water that they need, they obtain it from their diet, but a mourning dove is not that way. They have to have ponds, puddles, water access with a clear shoreline because they'll actually land and they need that water intake. So when we look at a food plot, we can create water sources or make it adjacent to ponds, puddles, or streams that have clear shores where they can land. And also, what's really nice is when you find that area for a food plot, you want to have some trees, pines that they can land in. Awfully, they like to perch and look out before they land, and that's especially true when they drink water. A lot of us, we see doves sitting on power lines in TWRA, our Wildlife Resource Agency, that does not like us shooting at power lines for obvious reasons. A lot of people will actually put fake telephone wires up. And that's highly recommended if you have the means to do so. It doesn't have to be as tall as the real power lines. Our fields will use a landscaping tie, maybe 8 to 12 foot tall, stretch a clothesline, or if you have material like a power line, stretch it out across your field and let them have a perch because they naturally want to go there. And that's perfectly fine if you want to shoot off of that or use it as attractive methods. Dove fields do better when they're bigger sizes. So if you look at the size of your plots, really the ideal is 5 acres or more. That's not always a must. It usually attracts more birds. You can have more shooters. But one of my dove fields, the better dove field that we had this year, you can see my dog I'm training in the back. That's Whiskey, an 8-month-old lab. We had the best shoot on about 1.5 acre field. It was a great food plot. It was managed well. Birds flew great. But ideally, you would want a field that's 5+ acres. And the thing that sticks out from mourning doves when I'm thinking about food plots is I really don't want a food plot mixture. So when we're doing food plots for deer, if that's our objective, or deer, or even turkey, we can buy mixtures of grain, seeds, and things like that. We don't really want that for a dove field. We want single species of grain planted, and some of the more popular grains that you can have is millet, sunflower, grain sorghum, and corn. And when I say millet, there's really a lot of options for millet. Got a list here that I wrote down. But millet, it can be brown top millet, it can be um, proso millet, pearl millet. Millet is really favorable. It has a small seed. It's easily taken up by the bird. It produces a lot of seed. If I had to pick just one, it would probably be proso millet because of just the seed production. That's really known for a dove food plot. That's the majority of that proso millet is bought for mourning dove uh, food plots. But you can also, look at the other varieties. Brown top does really good, produces a lot of seed. Pearl millet also. Grain sorghum is a great one to plant for cover. So if you do grain sorghum, it gets really tall. It produces a nice seed head that the birds like. But you need to find a good mixture that you're going to plant. Think about what kind of species you want to incorporate. And it's important to know that because of your planting date. But the options really are a lot that you can choose from. Before you plant, though, once you have an idea of your location and once you have an idea of the species involved, you need to do a soil test. Anytime you plant a crop, you're going to have the best opportunity if you plant um, according to the soil test results. And you can get that at your county extension office. They do a great job testing your soil, and it'll tell you your macronutrients, your nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate recommendations. It'll also tell you your soil pH, and that's very important because to have a really good food plot or a really good garden crop, anything, you really need to acclimate that soil and get that pH adjusted because the pH is going to affect your herbicide, and it's also going to affect your fertilization rates. So once you get your location and you get that tested, your soil tested, you're going to lime, and then you're going to fertilizer according to that soil test that you conducted. And so preparing the ground, you're going to want to use herbicide, or you can burn it with fire if that's an option. But you're going to want to get that seed bank exposed. You want to get the grasses that are currently growing in that field or that area that you're trying to plant off of it. And you can do that with a post or a pre-emergent herbicide as well. Dr. Harper is our UT wildlife extension specialist, and he works with a lot of folks. And planting these fields, he likes using Prowl as a good pre-emergent herbicide, Spartan Charge, and that really helps the seed that's already there not grow. So putting that down, controlling weeds, because if you don't get your weeds under control before you plant your crops, they can overtake and really affect your seed production for the birds. So using that pre-emergent, using fire, using some kind of disturbance to break that seed bank up, and preparing that seed, your wanted seed bed to thrive. But getting that spot cleared will really give you an advantage. So once you have that spot located and picked out, and you've cleared that with, um, well, first pick your spot, fertilize and lime recommendations, and then you're going to clear your spot using herbicide, fire, or whatever practice that you feel comfortable with. And you have your seed mixture that you're wanting. You can start to plant. And we're talking about planting dove fields. It's really a plan and a thinking forward progress. So I don't like planting dove fields after May 15th in the area that I'm in. So if you really want to have a good stand production of your food plots, you really need to get it in the ground before May 15th. And some of these seeds that you're planting are going to take longer to finish and mature. So you really have to think about September 1 or opening day of your dove season ahead of time. You can't wait till July or August to plant these warm season plots, they won't be mature in time to produce the seed that you need. So May 15th is a pretty good general area that you want to have these seeds in the ground. But once you have that, you choose your species. And so for an example, I'm going to give you one of the better mixtures that I like using. So what I like to do is I like to do strip planting. Again, we're not going to mix. To make this simple, let's talk about millet. Let's talk about sunflower. And I like corn. So let's talk about those three species: millet, sunflower, and corn. Okay. So what I like to do is do strips. So I would do 2 strips of millet. I would plant 2 strips of millet, keeping wide enough between the strips where I can get my tractor through or my 4-wheeler, whatever that I'm going to use, because what I want is a strip of plants, brown top millet, and then a bare spot, because they don't scratch. Mourning doves do not scratch, so they really need bare ground. So you're going to have that seed exposed on bare ground when they produce, so they can easily see it and they can eat it. And also, it helps you to find down birds, because uh, when you're hot and heavy, you're shooting birds. Birds are falling. Having those bare strips are going to make bird retrieval a lot easier. Even with a dog, which we'll talk about that at the end, dove do not leave a lot of scent for a dog. So finding down birds can be a challenge. And so by leaving that bare spot between your vegetation is going to allow seed to be exposed. The dove are going to be able to land, eat the grit, the gravel, and eat the seeds, and they're going to be happy. That's what you want. Happy doves makes happy hunters. So you're going to have brown top millet, bare ground. You're going to have sunflower after that. So you have single species millet, bare ground, sunflower, bare ground again. So really all you're doing is alternating that by looking at your field. So you're going to have food plot, bare ground, food plot, bare ground. And that's important because, like I said, they're going to have that area to land and eat. And that's what they're going to be drawn into. So you can pick your millet, brown top, proso. Sunflower is one of my favorite plants. The only negative thing that I have found with sunflower is deer like to eat the fire out of it. If you have a lot of deer in your area, they will clip it off before it gets to head. They will really hammer it. If you're hunting where the deer density is not real thick, or if you can keep the deer out of it, sunflower is a great thing to plant. Rabbits have also really attacked my sunflower, but sunflower is really nice because you can leave it standing, and then before hunting season, you can spray it to get all the foliage off of it and leave that seed head nice and pretty. It'll fall over and expose seed. But sunflower is a great one if you can have it. Corn can provide shade cover for you as the hunter. And also everybody knows that corn produces seed and it's really good for wildlife. But having that plan in strips with bare ground works really great. So we've got that planted. We put that in the ground May 15th. And I want to share with you a publication that is really nice to have for any food plot, but especially dove. So this will keep you out of trouble with the law too. And I don't know, Kelsey, can I share my screen? Do I have that permission?
I think I got to give it to you real quick. Hold on.
Okay. I think I just resent a request.
Okay, try it.
Right. Okay. All right. Can you all see a forage and field crop seeding guide for Tennessee? Did I share the right screen?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So this is a great publication to have if you're talking about doing food plots or any agriculture in general. But what this allows you to see is the application rate and the time of year that you can plant this, and you can get this at your local county extension office. Um, Auburn may have a publication that's very similar to this. Um, if not, I'm sure you can get it from Tennessee, but this goes through here and talks about all different kind of species and description. So if we go down here to Proso millet, I've been using that in my example. So here's millet. So Proso millet, the monoculture seeding rate, which that's basically what we're doing, but we're doing in strips, is 30 pounds per acre. And planting depth is very light. You don't want to plant it any deeper than a quarter of an inch. So it's really just easy to break up that soil, put it over. I have planted using a disc if I didn't have a drill, running it back over with a disc or trying to run it over with something heavy, just kind of get it under the soil. But this talks about your seeding date, so April the 15th through June the 15th, which if it's in this book with TWRA, it is considered a certified agriculture practice, and that's going to be important for here in a minute. But between April 15th, June 15th, that can be planted. And it even gives you a comment, excellent seed producer for birds. So that gives you an idea of when to plant and how much to plant. And so we talked about millet. Let me see, sunflowers. Sunflower, they're the same, April 15th, May 15th. You can't plant them as far deep, but like I said, May 15th is really the cutoff for you if you're wanting it for dove on September 1. But excellent seed producer for mourning dove. Again, not very deep. You do have to go a little bit deeper than what you would for the millet, which is another reason why we don't want really a mixture here. So we talked about sunflower and then corn. Corn takes a while to mature, so got to make sure you get in. So we have a March 21st date early, but you don't really want to plant it that early. You don't have to. You got to make sure that soil temperature is above, I think, 55 degrees for the best bet for that. But again, you're not really planting it very deep, 1.5 to 2 inches. So this publication, Forage and Field Crop Seeding Guide, can come very handy when you're doing food plots. So you don't have to just stick with those three species. I mean, um, a lot of the preferred seeds, there's barley, barnyard grass, bristle grass, the millets, buckwheat, common ragweed's really good if you're trying to stay native. Um, Corn, cowpeas, crowfoot, Egyptian wheat, wild peas. So a lot of these crops are very favorable for mourning dove, and you can alternate those. You can kind of pick on what you think would work best in your area. This seeding guide will help you out. So that's the main thing, is thinking ahead and making sure that you get that strip management in your field. Obviously, you're going to have weeds competing with that. So if you're doing rows of strip corn, if you're doing Roundup Ready corn, you can spray it after it gets a certain height to really control the weeds. You can spot spray between your strips. You remember you want that bare ground, and you can spot spray with Warrant is a good one that Dr. Harper recommends, or you could use glyphosate if it's spot spray, as long as you don't hit your target plant species. And now, once that's come up and planted, you're going to want to keep that bare ground. So about every 2 weeks, you're going to want to go through that with your equipment, with your disc, with your maybe not having to do a bush hog, but you want to keep that bare so that's attractive to the birds. But when we're talking about mourning doves, and I'll say a disclaimer, it's not this way when we're talking about waterfowl, but you can do certain manipulations to your food plot for mourning dove. So you can knock it down, and I'm talking about the crops. You can knock it down, you can bush hog it, you can burn it to expose seed as long as you know it's a certified agriculture practice. Um, Manipulation can make that more attractive for the birds. Uh, the one thing that you can't do is what they call sweeten the field, is once you do that, you can't go and throw any more seed on that. Okay, that now we're getting into baiting, which you can do so much legally for a dove field. I don't understand why people really cross that line, but you can bush hog it, you can burn it, you can really expose that seed. Um, the only caveat to that is when we talk about wheat. So you don't really, so planting millet in August is not a certified agriculture practice. I showed you in the manual um, that that would not be backed up by your land grant university. But when we talk about wheat, if we go down here to wheat, we're going to look at wheat for forage. It's got a plant date of November 1. So it is a cool season crop. And so it is perfectly legal as long as it's a certified agriculture practice to plant wheat as a forage. And so um, once you knock that down, if you're planting wheat for wildlife, um, soil erosion, wildlife objectives, and things like that, you can plant that wheat all the way to November 1. Now, it still has to be a certified agriculture practice. If you throw that wheat, you can't go back 3 days later and throw another pile of wheat on. That wouldn't be a certified agriculture practice. So, understanding that threshold of what's a certified agriculture practice is very key when you're talking about throwing seed on. And the nice thing about wheat is it doesn't have to be planted deeply. Top sowing is a common practice here in Tennessee as far as certified agriculture practice. It can be top sown on unprepared ground because most of the time it's drilled in, but that can be done. But again, you can't do that and 3 days later throw more wheat out. That would be sweetening the field. So you got to keep that in mind. Try to stay legal the best you can because you don't want to get in trouble, and it's not, there's ethical issues, but and it's also up to the officer discretion. So make sure that you follow this guide and do those certified agricultural practices. But if you do manipulate the field, you want to do it probably 2 weeks before season. You don't want to run your birds off or just scare by disturbing the habitat. You can keep that bare ground 2 weeks, and always leave some of the stand. So you'll want to leave some corn. In the example that I showed you, leave some millet for birds in the winter. Some of this millet will actually try to reseed itself the following year. So leave some of that standing. It's for the betterment of the resource. It'll help you out for next year. So don't knock it all down because uh, the true objective of a food plot, it doesn't matter if it's mourning dove or whitetail deer, you're doing it to supplement feed and nutrition for periods where it's hard for the animal to make a living. So when we plant warm season plots, we're trying to hit that drought period. We're trying to supplement that feed during times where it's hard for wildlife to really find to make a living on eating native seeds and forbs. So for a deer example, when we plant food plots in cool season, a lot of hunters, they want to hunt over it and everything, and that's fine. If it's done legally, that's great. But really, what we're trying to stimulate is prolonging that nutritional value in that food plot. So when they start growing antlers and it's hard to find food, or well, that's warm season. But when it's hard to find food in the dead of winter, January, February, you still have some of that food plot standing and providing some of that supplemental. Warm season, we're looking at lactating females, fawns. Supplementing nutritional value on that end. So same thing with mourning dove. We're trying to create a food source for later in the period. because they start hatching in this area around February. So they'll start nesting 33-day cycle. They'll start nesting in February. So leaving that standing will only benefit the flock and for future hunting endeavors. So before I move on to some hunting aspects of it, uh, anybody have any questions about anything that I've covered as far as plant selection, site prep, site selection, or this ag guide? All right, very good. If you do, we can go back and definitely address that.
I don't have any questions, but I will just say for us personally, we added one of those fake power lines in,
Mhm.
and we like almost doubled the amount of dove that we were seeing by the next year. So
Yeah, they really like it. As far as hunting goes, and that takes me into my next point is it really works. It's worth doing, I believe. So putting that line up and it makes them comfortable, lets them see it. And they use it after hunting season. They use it before hunting season if you can leave it in. It's very good. So another thing to make you successful, and this gets off of food plots, but I want to make sure that you will have an enjoyable hunting experience and get more people involved in hunting. The power lines, the fake power lines, like Kelsey said, work. I think they decoy really well, um, especially Mojos. It doesn't have to be a Mojo; that's a brand, but the Mojo or the decoys that move. We call them all Mojos because that's a company that makes them. But ones that have the spinning wings, they seem to really like. It makes them come in. They'll hover over it. Um, I think that works really well if you have a bigger field using 2 or 3 of those. The flickers, they make flickers that you can put on the ground, turn them on, that flick and simulate those wings that flatter. Um, those work really well and help them bring them in the field. And you put that in the bare spots of your field. So that really helps bring it in. You can use the full body decoys on the fake power lines on fences. I don't know how much they actually help, but it probably makes them feel more comfortable. Get your success rate up and have more birds coming in. Anything like that helps. One of my favorite things is having a dog. That's a good intro to waterfowl and goose and even upland a little bit, but getting your dog retrieving. It is extremely hot in September 1. So always bring water in the field for your dogs. Keep them safe and hydrated and cool. If you have a dog that overheats, which can happen, you want to cool that dog down, but not put it in shock. I always carry jugs of water, a water bowl. I like wetting towels. Uh, Dogs lose heat differently than we do, so you could put that on their belly, cool those dogs down. And signs of dehydration or heat exhaustion. A dog its tongue will start to curl. It'll be frothy at the mouth. It'll be lethargic. So you want to keep an eye on that. And also doves, they seem to have a little bit different of feathers. They have these pin feathers that stay in their mouth a little longer. Having water there is really a must if you want to add that part of the hunt. It's really enjoyable. I think I wouldn't hunt as much if I didn't have a dog. It's just a different game in general. Have a safety briefing before your hunt. Talk about the rules of the property. Always talk about not shooting at low birds and discuss those protocols. Worry about your follow through and your swings because it's a social event. You'll have other hunters more likely be cautious of that. Shotguns are dangerous. We're using bird shot, but they can still uh, have a very bad time if something goes wrong that way. So always follow safety protocols. Make sure your plugs are in since it's a federal thing, migratory bird. It's got to have a plug, 3 shotguns or less. I've been in the pinch where, I may have not had a plug in and something go wrong. I've had to make a plug myself, but always make sure that it only holds no more than 3 shells. use a light recoil gun, you're going to be shooting a lot. If you're new to this, you'll have a better experience. If you have probably a lower recoil shooting gun, a lot of 20 gauges work good. Uh, 12, 20s, 28s, uh, you know, would be a better experience if you do that. Common shot 7.5, 7.5 cent shot, all the way to 9 shot is used. It doesn't take a big pellet to put down a dove. Although I can say that, I've shot a lot of dove with 8s that just blew feathers out. I like 7s better, but that's just a personal preference. And uh, make sure you have the appropriate choke. You don't really want a super full choke like a turkey choke, or you want really, if you're starting out, an improved cylinder or a modified choke works best. And talk with your new hunters, your inexperienced hunters, and talk about high success shots. So shooting at them, within 20, 30 yards uh, when you're starting out. And this is something cool that I learned this year. Um, Kelsey, I'll put you on the spot. How many, on average, the average hunter, how many shells do you think it takes to shoot a limit? A limit of dove is 15 doves. So how many shells do you think the average hunter spends killing 15 doves?
I don't know the actual number, but it's way too many. I
Yeah,
know. I mean, we'll
yeah,
go through,
yeah,
I don't know, 8 boxes for
yeah, yeah,
a whole field
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. The average hunter uses 75 shotgun shells for 15 birds.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So they are hard to hit. So don't feel bad if you take a while to get that. Our goal shouldn't be shooting limits. It should be enjoying it and having a good experience. But 75 shells is the average hunter. So they're hard to hit and they're different. You can take a trap shooter or a skeet shooter and put them in the dove field and it'll humble them. It's totally different. But uh, and I will say that they're some of the best table fare that you can have as far as wild game goes. Um, very easy to clean, very, very small, easy to clean. Really don't have to have any tools to clean them, but you take the breast out and people will take the meat off the breast, or I usually don't. I cook the whole breast. And my favorite way to eat it is marinate it, and then you have jalapenos, and then you have some cream cheese, and you circle it in bacon and you put it on the grill. We call them dove poppers. So I think that's a lot of people's favorite way to cook it. But I've had them in various dishes and grilled, and I can't eat bacon anymore. So I just like them marinated and barbecued on the grill. So they are definitely worth going out and hunting for. So I hope you get to go. We still have some of the season left. I think it's in stages. So I think this first stage is open till pretty close to the end of the month. You need to check your regulations, and it closes a bit and it opens for a second period. But uh, it's good to have this meeting now because you can get in the mind about planning your food plot. Hopefully, in the 1st of May is what I would shoot for. And there's a little bit of homework and a little bit of work that goes in the front of it. But good golly, you can have a really good time on September 1 and open weekend with family, friends, and having a good dove hunt. With that being said, if any of y'all have any questions or anything, you can you can speak now. If I didn't hit something that you need more clarification on, I'd be happy. But the ag practices, this guide and other things you can pick up from your county extension agent, and if they need more detail, if you need help with food plots, they can help too. Or if they don't know something, I'm always available. They can give me a call and we can get it straightened out.
Alrighty. Well, if nobody has any questions, we'll get finished up. I appreciate it, Ronnie. That was really insightful. Dove hunting is also one of my favorite things to do and one of the best birds to eat for game here in Tennessee. I
For
like to grill
sure.
them on the grill like that as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully we can get some more people into it and doing it legally. Is the
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and luckily they have some, manipulation that you can do, and it's a little bit different when we talk about the ducks and the geese and stuff, but there's a lot that you can do with dove, thank goodness. And really, if you follow ag practices, you can be really safe with it. But you definitely want to make sure that you follow that guide and just keep in mind certified agriculture practices. That's
Yeah.
the key.
Alrighty. I'll get this recording put up on YouTube. I don't think we have the next one planned yet. We might be waiting until the spring where we'll start talking about turkeys and whatnot.
Yeah.
But just stay up to date on our Facebooks for the next one.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
That sounds good. I enjoyed it. If I can do anything, let me know.
Alrighty. Thank you.
It's good to see y'all.
See
To
y'all.
see you, Brian. Thank you.